The 2016 election didn't go the way the left wanted or expected, obviously. The 2018 midterms were better for Democrats, but they still lost a number of races and others were pretty close. This was intolerable for the Democratic Party for one simple reason: power. Since the Second World War, the federal government has expanded inexorably, and the power it holds over your life has grown exponentially. A vast bureaucracy is capable of policing what you buy, what you say, what you see, and increasingly what you think. Couple that with a tech sector, and it's almost total control. But for the left, it's not enough. They have big plans to take even more of our economy over: the healthcare sector, the energy sector. That's what it's about, controlling our economy. They want nationalized state daycare services so that government apparatchiks can take over parenting itself. Senator Kamala Harris promises the next thing the government will control is your own behavior. Watch.
It is a fact that we can change human behaviors without much change to our lifestyle, and we can save the future generations of our country and this world.
There's nothing they can't do, really. They're going to change human nature next, just like the Soviets. Good luck with that. The vision, though, is pretty consistent. The left is fighting for an all-powerful state, a state that is so powerful that you couldn't really responsibly give it over to your political opponents. Democracy is a threat to their plans. They'd obviously prefer elections where there's only one possible outcome. Winning over existing voters doesn't work. It hasn't. They're not even trying anymore. So instead, add new voters and replace the old ones. That is the plan. They're saying it out loud. They did last week in the Democratic-controlled House. They passed a bill they claim is needed to protect voting rights because voting rights are at threat. Voter suppression. It's ridiculous. There's no number that shows that's true. Every number there is shows that's a lie. It's more propaganda ginned up by the DNC, repeated uncritically by the morons on cable news, and believed, unfortunately, by a lot of people. In 2016, 140 million people voted. There's no danger that voting is going away, despite what they're telling you again and again. What Democrats overtly want is the votes of non-citizen children and criminals. They say that.
The focus needs to be on bringing more people to vote, not driving them away, not throwing them off the voter rolls.
We want them, when they come here, to be fully part of our system, and that means not suppressing the vote of our newcomers to America.
Young people should also have a say in who represents them. For your consideration, Amendment number 127, which would lower the minimum voting age in federal elections from 18 to 16 years of age.
Restore voting rights to felons who pay their debt to society.
We must help more Americans to participate in their democracy. We need to work to remove barriers to voting.
Where to begin? Restore the voting rights to felons, but not the gun rights, you'll notice. It's purely transactional. House Republicans forced a vote on an amendment to H.R. 1 that would condemn letting illegal immigrants vote in elections. That amendment failed. All but 6 Democrats voted against it. Make no mistake, Democrats believe that anybody in the entire world has the right to enter this country illegally or not and start casting votes in our election. It's odd because this very same party tells us that Russian Facebook trolls are a threat to our democracy. And yet by the standards they themselves have laid down, they'd have no problem with, 1 million Russians walking across the Mexican border and voting, as long as they voted for Beto O'Rourke. The illegal votes are not their only idea, though. As you just saw, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley got dozens of Democrats to back a bill that would, hilariously, lower the voting age to 16 nationwide. Now, no one wants to be mean. Some of us have had a lot of 16-year-olds, nice people, but they can't smoke, they can't drink, they can't join the military, they can't get married or undergo surgery without their parents' permission. Why? For a reason. By the way, if they break the law, their parents can be held liable for damages. What's the theme here? They're not adults. We don't treat them like adults because they're not. But soon, Democratic Party consensus will be that they should vote. And only for one reason, by the way, not because they're apt to make wise decisions, but because they're apt not to. And they're much more likely to vote Democratic as a result. No doubt Democrats would give them 2 votes apiece if they could. They want felons voting for exactly the same reason. No offense against society is enough to outweigh favoring Democrats at the ballot box. Those are the stakes, then. Democrats are making a legal and legislative push to change the electorate so much they never have to worry about elections again. But the current electorate has to allow that to happen. They're the only ones who can stop it from happening. Jason Nichols is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Maryland, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks very much for coming on. So I want to start with the age question, because I can't resist, because you are a professor. And so you teach young people, presumably they're all at least 18. But you've got kids, you've been around kids. I'm sure you love 16-year-olds as much as the rest of us do. But, I mean, are they capable of making wise voting decisions?
Well, I think there are lots of people who aren't capable of making wise voting decisions. We've seen that, but we don't stop them from voting. And the other thing
That's true. You're right about that.
The other thing is that we allow 16-year-olds to drive. We allow 17-year-olds to join the military. So we put them in positions where they could literally determine life and death for many of us, including themselves. So the idea that they can't vote, I think, is something that we can at least question.
Okay. How about 13? I mean, 13-year-olds in some places can work. I mean, they can work in the parents' store. They can work on a farm.
They can't
well,
join
I think
the
they can
military.
drive on farms, actually.
They can't
drive. And neither can 16-year-olds. But I mean, like, what is the limit, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, I'm not necessarily endorsing 16, but I think that it is a conversation that we can have. I think that that's a fair conversation. The fact that, we get on the roads, we all put our lives in our hands and we allow a 16-year-old to make life and death decisions there. And as a 17-year-old, you're able to potentially join the military and certainly make life and death decisions while you're in the military. So I think, at least having that conversation. Yeah, at least they're having that conversation.
Right. Good. Well, I'm for the conversation. I think it does say a lot, though, because you want the wisest people you can find to vote. You want people to make smart votes, not just.
But I think that's dangerous, Tucker.
Votes.
But I think that's dangerous for us to sit here and try to choose who's wisest and who's not, who's fit to vote and who's not. There's no man who is so wealthy or so great or so smart as to determine the destiny of his neighbor.
That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that children are not adults. That's all I'm saying. And if you care about the system itself, you don't want to encourage children to do something they're not capable of doing, voting. But why would you ever encourage people who are not citizens to vote? I mean, that kind of destroys the whole idea of your country, right? Someone could just move here. And what would happen if a million Russian Facebook trolls moved here, swept over the border from San Ysidro and came in and voted? Would that be okay?
That would not be okay. And I don't think that people are saying that undocumented or unauthorized immigrants should vote, at least in state and federal elections. I think what people have talked about and at least entered into a conversation about is very local elections. In College Park, there was a resolution to allow undocumented people to vote. And the reason being because they pay property taxes, they own property, they should be able to determine, whether a pothole gets fixed or something in their community.
So there's a requirement? I didn't know that we still required people to own property to vote. I thought that was kind of a
no. It's not a requirement that they own property.
So they don't actually own property. Most of them probably don't own anything, right?
They have a vested interest in what goes on immediately in their community. Now, as far as the federal and state elections, I haven't heard anyone on the left press for undocumented people to cast votes in state or federal elections.
Super quick, how long would you guess it will be until someone, I'm just guessing maybe a former bartender from Queens, suggests that, calls for that?
I don't think she's going to do that. I think that she's idealistic, but I don't think she's going to make that decision.
All right, well, I'll be monitoring Twitter and have you back when she does. It's just a matter of time.
Right,
Professor, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.